I was the president of the European Board for CME Accreditation in pneumology, respiratory medicine, as it's known in Britain. And I was president of that for about 5 or 6 years. And then I still am a member of the EAC CME task force set up to improve CME. And in the last 3 to 4 years, I have been editor-in-chief of the Journal of European CME, a new open access online journal, which is very slowly becoming established, but it's been a rather difficult path to go down, because unlike North America, Europe doesn't really have academic units devoted to or dedicated to CME. And so there's very little CME research done in Europe, in contrast to Canada and the USA, where almost all the world research in CME is carried out, because they have academic units devoted to CME. And also in the hospitals in North America, they will have a department of CME, which doesn't happen in Britain. You can look on the websites of the great American and Canadian hospitals and you'll find details about their CME department. You look in vain for any such departments in the great British hospitals. We just do not invest in hospital-based, practice-based CME in this country, which I feel is a defect in our system, which organizations like the General Medical Council, and indeed the government, the Department of Health, the universities, the colleges, they should be addressing that. They should be appreciating that doctors in the UK and Europe are more or less left to their own devices in their place of work to organize their own CME. They do it, of course, it happens. It's very good CME in many ways. It's the most important CME they do. In other words, I'm talking about multidisciplinary team meetings, grand rounds, case conferences, and they do that, and it's of enormous value to their CME, but it's done in a wholly unstructured way, because there's no department in the hospital with a responsibility for contributing to the organization of these meetings. It's easy to say why there might not be any, because governments have invested most of their money in medical schools. So undergraduate medical education is very well funded, and it's very well researched. In fact, probably too well researched, because they keep going around in circles with all their educational theories. And then we also spend a lot of money training people to become consultants. But when they become consultants, we take the view, or the European view has been, that's it, they're on their own. Let them do their own thing. And for some curious reason, which I don't quite understand, that didn't happen in America. It may be because the insurance companies have been very keen for CME to be carried out in order the doctors will perform better and the cost to the insurance companies will be diminished. That's one factor. I'm sure it's not the only reason why the situation is so different in North America, but it is different. And I think they are ahead of us in this regard. It is the government, the Department of Health, and the General Medical Council, I would say, should be the prime movers. Then perhaps the university, but the universities, I think, are reluctant to do it. But the medical schools perhaps should get together and come up with some opinion, on this subject. Even if it's to say they don't want to do it, we should know what they think. What is happening is, in Britain particularly, is if you look at the GMC report for 2014, the number of cases of negligence being referred to the GMC is rising. The number of people being struck off is rising. The number of people to whom sanctions are being applied is rising. The amount of money paid out in compensation is rising. So eventually, the government will have, and the GMC will say, we have to do something about this. Now, what they have up until now rested their hopes on has been revalidation, which I believe to be simply a punitive bureaucratic instrument, which I do not believe will improve clinical performance. Now that's just, if you like, a prejudice on my part. But I'm not aware of any comparable situation anywhere else where an instrument like that has resulted in doctors performing at a higher level. And so if it comes home to them that the situation is the situation in terms of professional performance is going in the wrong direction, eventually it might dawn on them that the obvious solution is to invest in CME CPD. In other words, to use a carrot for the doctors instead of a stick, revalidation being the stick. I've always taken the view that the American system of accrediting the providers rather than the individual educational activities is more sensible. It's cheaper, it works more easily, it's got an economy of scale, and probably it is more likely to improve the quality of the education. Whereas in Europe, we do activity accreditation, which is a prospective system where we look at activities which haven't taken place yet and try to accredit them on the basis of what the program looks like. We've no idea how it will actually play out in reality. So it's very difficult to make a judgment on it. Whereas provider accreditation, you are accrediting providers on the basis of their past record, which you can scrutinize. I think it's possibly likely that a hybrid system will be adopted over the next few years, whereby the major providers will be accredited as such, whereas minor providers who just put on a few activities, their activities will continue to be accredited on the basis of activity accreditation.